I'll tell you who we won't get any trouble on the streets from, and that's an awful lot of Whitehall civil servants. A lot of them may well be on holiday. An awful lot of them, frankly, will be working from home on holiday. Difficult to tell. A lot of them certainly aren't doing their job. But once again, it's been confirmed that Labour have completely failed any plan to actually get civil servants back in the office, particularly those Home Office civil servants whose job it is to actually tackle that asylum backlog, 100,000 strong. Let's talk about this with Sophia Worringer, who's the Deputy Director, Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice think tank. Good afternoon to you, Sophia.
Hi, Julia. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I completely accept, I bang on about this a lot on the show. Some people can get work done from home. I like, if I'm writing a column, writing an article, I like to sit and work in silence. People got projects, the sort of work. But there's also an awful lot of work when you learn from your colleagues. You need to be able to share ideas, and actually just the structure of the day of getting into an office. People can see what you're doing, output related. People need to get to work. But there's so much evidence since work from home became such a big thing in the civil service that they're not doing much working.
Yeah, I think it is concerning. Lots of people like to work from home. If you want to work from home, there's lots of jobs you can do, but not ones that are taxpayer funded. And I think, there could be exceptions for people who have caring responsibilities, of course, but the majority...
No, see, I don't get that, because you're either caring or you're working. Which are you doing,
Yeah, fair enough. I guess people who maybe work a bit longer so that they can do the half-hour school run in the working day, but then they work till 7 instead, things like that. Yeah. But I think what is important here is we have a UK-wide productivity problem. And in fact, outside London and the southeast, the figures are very dire. In fact, the London and the southeast is what drags the whole of the UK up. And this government has been very...
that's only certain workers, because it's actually across the board.
Yeah, this government have been very clear that they want to go for growth. We're yet to see the plan of exactly how that will unfold. But one of the things that they can go for is increasing productivity per worker. And I do think that it's really important to be in the office the majority of the time. The previous government set a target for civil servants to be there 60% of the time. And now that's been rolled back on. There is no official policy. So I think it's a problem if they're not expecting their own workers to do that.
Exactly, and we've seen in the productivity figures in the private sector, productivity has been going up over the last 20 years. It has completely flatlined in the public sector, despite all of the technology which has, should have, both the private sector and the public sector, should have actually made us more efficient. We see no extra output per person in the last 20 years, on average, in the public sector. And we saw it plummet, didn't we, after 2020 on lockdowns, and it's just not recovered since.
Exactly. And we also need to remember this is a very conversation that's very applicable only to certain types of jobs. The majority of people across the country cannot work from home, whether they're in service jobs or in manufacturing or a shop worker or, of course, teaching or in the NHS. They have to be in work to work. And this conversation about working from home as a kind of the majority of the time is such a privileged conversation to have, and it takes up too much oxygen with the civil servant fighting for that when they need to get on with their job.
Absolutely, and the unions are arguing against even being in the office 2 or 3 days a week, and particularly, by the way, also a lot of those jobs people have to turn up, rely on the other people who are working from home to turn up as well, because the sandwiches, the taxis, the restaurants, the shops, and the like. But you mentioned getting the job done. I mean, a lot of people just aren't getting the job done because they're signed off sick, and this extraordinary expose over the weekend in the Mail about private GPs signing sick notes for just 25 quid. It ranged 25 quid to 55 quid, I think was the range. People taking time off work, even when the reporter actually said, I just think I could benefit from a day off, and it's very hot and I'd like to go to the beach. Paid 25 quid, and a private GP signs that off. They hand it to their employer. There's nothing their employer can do about it. People saying, yeah, I'm feeling a bit anxious and stressed. 20-second phone call, getting signed off by a GP. This is an absolute outrage that this is happening, is it not?
It really is. I'd love to be at the beach today. As you said, it's nearly 32 degrees, wouldn't we all? But anxiety and low-level depression actually... Studies have shown that being in the office, the social aspect of being with people, having that routine is part of people's recovery process. Obviously not for all conditions, but for the majority. And so it's important that people are not just pulling themselves out of society and socialization by being at home. Then once you're at home for a few days, the idea of going back out into work is very overwhelming and you feel like you can't do it. So you become more kind of isolated, and obviously big problems with loneliness and then escalating mental health. So I think it's really important that people are, and it's such a scandal that people can basically pay for these certificates and bypass their GPs.
And absolute scandal that these GPs, particularly private GPs, are willing to actually provide those. Sorry, they should be struck off immediately for that, I have to say. Really good to talk to you, Sophia Worringer from the Centre for Social Justice. Always so good to talk to you.